I look awful. This is what happens after a dishevelled, awful day. Awful day. Where's that? So this is for what's his name? I'm gonna say his name in case he's. Oh, is he still in there? Oh, I need to get rid of so many trolls, man. That's the one, isn't it? That one there. Is that him? No, is that him? That wasn't him, was it? Where is he? 1 second. Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because ultimately, where is he? There we are. It's Heenan. Okay, let's have a look then. So basically, right, today's been awful. Today's been one of the worst days in a long time. But I'm grateful for the bad days as much as I am for the good days. Hence the snow here and the terrible cold toes and the shocking revelations of life afterwards. But then there you go. Let's just put this comment in there for him. Look at this guy on there. Make sure he gets to see this. That's all I want to make sure this is for. DARREN. Apologies for my head being down. And then where is he? Where is he? He's not even there. Headman. Head. I can't fucking spell his name now. But anyway, ultimately, I can't find him now. Is that him there? No, it's not him. He's gone. Okay, well, what it is, okay, basically. What do you do if you get a non-mol against you, right? Now, oh, there he is. He's here. You're here, Darren. Good. So this is just for you, man. This is just for you. So as long as you're here, that's all that matters. So cool. So what it is, yeah, you're going to get lots. I've seen your posts and everything. And what I will say is this, right? When you're going through what you're going to go through, it's life changing. It's going to change your life, and it's going to break you. You're probably broken already. I've seen your questions. I've seen everything that you're asking, and they're good questions and they're bad questions. Yeah, and there's no such thing as a bad question. And when you get people who are, you're going to get in life. Yeah, and this is what I've been in exactly the same situation as you. If you get a non-molestation and an occupational order against you, then you will be homeless. I've seen your other thing. I was homeless for a little while. And I was able to hold down work and whatnot with it because I had people supporting me. But I was having to pay the mortgage at the same time, which didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense. But now, after studying stuff, I understand it a lot more. But ultimately, what will happen in these situations is you're going to get people who, like you just seen the minutes that, oh, it's terrible advice. In family law, it's about probability, yeah, probability, not fact, not evidence. The evidence is important. Always have evidence. But in criminal law, it has to be beyond reasonable doubt, 100% fact, all there. With family law, it's probabilities. Yeah, what are the probable chances of him doing this? What are the probable chances of him doing that? That's why you'll find that your ex, and in lots of cases, ex-partners, will go to court and they will say all sorts of shit, all sorts of nasty stuff. Yeah. Sometimes they say some of the truth in there, but it'll be exaggerated. Sometimes it's just totally made up and fabricated. But they never have any evidence. They can say all they want to say, and then you stop seeing your kid, and they never have any evidence whatsoever to do anything, to prove anything or anything. Then you still sitting there, you're being treated like a criminal. You'll be treated like a criminal, and you will be feeling like an awful person as well. But you're not. You can't let yourself go. It's natural. You're going to, because you're going to have people making you feel awful. You're going to be feeling awful yourself because you're not seeing your kid. But it's the process. Yeah, she's going to say all she wants to say about you. It's all in aid of delay tactics. Yeah, and when I say delay tactics, if you're not seeing the child now, and this is not all women, you're going to get good women and you're going to get bad women. Yeah, you're going to get good men, you're going to get bad men, good dads, bad dads, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, good policemen, bad policemen, good judges, bad judges. Yeah, and what you need to realize with all of this, yeah, is you are your only person that you have to trust within yourself, because no one knows your family and your situation better than you know your family and your situation. So it's about you being really honest with yourself, right? Now, if she's not letting you see the child now and you think that she's going to put a non-molestation order against you, and if I'll say this five basic fundamental rules for me, yeah. And if you speak to lots of different people, you probably see I've got lots of people who don't like me, and I've got lots of people who don't agree with what I say, and that's cool. I'm fine with that because I know the people that I work with, and I know the people that I support are happy with what the results. In the main, we can't guarantee it, obviously, which is it's a nightmare because you're going to get good CAPCAS, you're going to get bad CAPCAS, and if you get a bad CAPCAS officer, if you get a bad one, then you're screwed. Yeah, if you get someone that's totally and you have to complain, you're not totally screwed, but it's a nightmare. It's not good. Now, what I'm getting at here is you need to, like, 5 fundamentals. Keep these in mind. Yeah, own your shit. Own your shit. Yeah, if you've done something wrong, own it. Yeah, if you've done something wrong, just own it. Be honest. Be pure. Be your authentic self. Yeah. Offer. Be humble. Always be humble. If you didn't know something, and lots of men go to court, including myself, when I'm back in the day, and I didn't realise what I in the non-molestation stuff, that when my ex-wife was attacking me, and I put her arms down, and I said, look, and I forcibly put her on the sofa, and I said, look, stop fucking hitting me, stop fucking hitting me. I said that to the judge, and the judge turned around and said, right, we'll take that. That's an admission of guilt. And I was like, well, is it really? It's self-defense. I was under the impression it's self-defense. No, it's not self-defense. You've been told you've manhandled her. That's abuse. We'll take that. Fine, I did that, so I'm cool with that. Didn't do X, Y, and Z that she's saying that I did, and that's what I'm not admitting to. Now, look, there's fine. They ended up not believing anything that she said because she was not a credible witness because she didn't have any evidence. She was making it up and blah blah. I was a credible witness because I owned my shit. I was also credible because I didn't realise that what I did would, in the eyes of the law, by the letter of the law, was deemed as domestic abuse or domestic violence. So I have to be humble enough to be able to say, okay, I was wrong. I didn't realise it. That's going to give you more credibility and more respect in court and from the professionals than what it will do if you turn around and being like some of the men you'll find in this group, and some people you'll find because it's how they're built, just ignoring it and being someone else's fault and pointing the finger of blame. Yeah. Because of that, I've then gone on from this, and because my daughter is my priority and always has been, you've got to offer compromise. You've got to offer sacrifice. Yeah. So there's going to be sacrifices you're going to have to make. There's going to be compromises you're going to have to make. It's inevitable. You're not together with your ex-missus anymore, so you're going to have to make compromise because you're not going to get everything you want. In fact, if your ex is a proper nasty person, like some people are, then she'll make your life so difficult, like they do. And even when you're supposed to have contact, she won't turn up for contact. She will do all sorts of stuff to make your life even more difficult than what it needs to be. And she won't be thinking about the child. So natural instinct from all of that is you need to fight fire with fire. She's doing that to me, I'm going to get angry. And you're naturally going to get angry. I spent 7 years being angry. But it's not fair. It's not fair that I'm being treated like this. I couldn't change anything. I was fighting the professionals. I was fighting everybody. But it got me nowhere. It got me absolutely nowhere because I still ended up with my normal order and I still ended up with everything I did. And I behaved super bad, really badly at the very beginning, really bad, because I was protesting and I was doing all the stuff that fathers for justice were telling me to do. And that was not ideal because the judge turned around and said to me that if I carry on like this, then I will not get no contact. So I was like, fine. So I had to take a change of approach. So ultimately, if I'd have known what I know now back then, I would have taken an undertaking with no findings. Why would I do that? Because it's apparently an admission of guilt. No, it's not an admission of guilt. If you take an undertaking and it has findings on it, so I make an undertaking. There's been no investigation. There's been no court hearing. I will make an undertaking. A promise. An undertaking is a promise to the court. Yeah. So you're promising the court that you will do something. It still has the power of arrest on it. Yeah. So she can still manipulate that and she can still get you arrested for it. So you can walk past her in the street or through an alleyway or under a bridge and she can turn around and say you did something when you really didn't do it. Then you would get arrested. Yeah. And the police would investigate it and blah, blah, blah. Now, that is true. That's factual. That will happen. But the reason I say take an undertaking with no findings, because I didn't do that. I battled my non-molestation application and I battled the occupation order. I was battling that, and this was pre-COVID. This is 10 years ago. It's pre-COVID. So I was battling that and I can't tell you the exact time because my body has blocked out the duration of time that I didn't see my daughter for or I was going through this for, because the trauma that I was feeling off the back of that, I just don't remember it. I remember a certain amount of time of my life that I just don't remember. Now, and for a change, that was not down to alcohol or drugs. Now, ultimately, I was doing my first case. My first ever case is always going to be your worst case. Your first case is always going to be the worst case. Yeah. I'm getting there. Yeah. Admissions with no admissions. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I just said a minute ago. So I would have got there if I would have got, my first case was like 3.5 years, 4 years nearly. Yeah. And that's because I was being a dick at the beginning, and ultimately I didn't take an undertaking with no findings. I fell straight into the trap that my ex-wife wanted me to and the solicitor wanted me to, which was keeps me away from my daughter for a longer period of time than what is necessary. Yeah, because I battled it. If I had submitted a C100 at the same time, so your first job down is you get submit a C100. Yeah, no matter what happens, for the next 24 hours, submit a C100. If you need help with it, let me know. I'll help you. But you submit a C100. If you get a normal, you submit a C100 in, and you tell the courts that when you're on your first 30-minute hearing, because you're going to get a 30-minute hearing, and there'll be no decisions made in that 30-minute hearing. It'll be a 30-minute hearing where the judge wants to hear whether or not you are contesting the allegations, which is put against you. So you're arguing them, or are you accepting them? And you don't want to accept something that you didn't do. But at the same point, you don't want to argue about it either, because you just want to see your kid. So what do? You're in a bit of a conundrum. So what you do is you submit your C100. You say to the judge, well, look, I don't believe anything that this person's saying. I will take responsibility for what I need to take responsibility for. I'm a human being. If I've made mistakes, I'll own it. But ultimately, she's doing this because she's manipulating the system to suit her agenda, which is to stop me from seeing my child. Is there a way of getting around this? Can I take an undertaking with no findings? And then the judge will, if the judge deems, and it's all down to the judge, if the judge deems that the allegations because the allegations can be serious, and I've had serious allegations, and the judge has still accepted undertakings with no findings. Why has the judge done that when there's sexual and physical allegations on there? Well, because the judge won't come out and openly say, I don't believe this person, because they can't do that. But they see these people in court every day, all day, every day. They can read body language. It's about psychology, yeah, which is what I'm helping people with, which is why a lot of people don't like the fact that I'm doing this, because it's giving you knowledge that they won't tell you, right? Because if you see a solicitor, if you see other Mackenzie friends, they will take you through every single form, every single process that you are supposed to follow. You're a litigant in person. You're not supposed to follow every single process because you're a litigant. You take advantage of that. And the reason why everyone wants you to go through every single process and every single form, because they can charge you silly money for filling out a form. They can charge, like solicitors, I put something up earlier, solicitors will charge you a ridiculous amount of money just for filling a form in. You're more than capable of filling a form in. You might need help in terms of certain aspects and what these means and what, and that's teachable. Yeah, that's teachable. But you don't need someone else to fill a form in, and it's going to cost you £232 if you're working to submit your child arrangements application, and then you're going to get some Ponzi solicitor or some Ponzi Mackenzie friend turn around saying, I'm going to charge you £300. It's half of what a solicitor will charge you. That's amazing. You're like, yeah, that's great. It's half of what a solicitor would charge you. But all you're doing is typing a few fucking words into a key thing. And you know your details better than what he does. So why are you charging? I don't know why. I never did charge them. I never do. But that's my thing. Because I think knowledge is power. And if I can give people knowledge, and you don't have to use my ways, if I can teach you to walk, and then you can walk your own style. Yeah. So what you need to remember with family law is, it's basically there's a law is there that you have to work within the parameters of the law, yeah, and you have to work within the parameters of the court. But what you do, you are a litigant in person, so you're not supposed to know everything, and you're not going to, for 1 minute, in the short space of time that you have, you're never going to be able to know everything that a solicitor knows, or someone that's been doing it for 10 years knows, or whatever. So you're trying to compete with someone. You're trying to play a game of football with like, a Premier League team versus a non-league team. And that's never going to work. So you're never going to win. And that's why you hear so many horror stories. Yeah, because people are trying to do something they're just never going to be able to do. And they get rings run around them, which is why I don't, because I do things differently. But ultimately, the point I'm making is, go back to the point. We take a non-molestation with no findings. If the child is living with the mum and there's the main carer, the mum is the main carer at this stage, right? And they put an occupation order in. It's very slim chance, if you have just as your own home, this is the only home, even if you're going to be homeless, even if all this shit that's going to happen, which it happened to me, so they couldn't give a shit, the child, because it's about the children, it's about the child, it's children's court, yeah, it's family, it's children's court. The judge doesn't care about you, doesn't care about your ex, they care about the child. They're not emotionally attached to the child, but they, in the eyes of if you look at it like education, like a teacher, they have to do what in their mind is best for the child. So if that means the child needs somewhere to live, then the child who is the main who is with the mum right now is the main who is the main carer. The child will have to live in the family home, which means if you two aren't getting on with each other, mum and dad aren't getting on with each other, and the mum is the main carer for the child, then dad's going to have to move out. Because don't forget, you're a man and you're indispensable. Yeah, you're absolutely indispensable, and it's the same as when you go, and it's not a nice feeling because it's not a nice feeling, but ultimately it's the same as when you're on a boat, yeah, and the boat starts sinking. The life rafts and all the things to keep people alive, get the women and children on there. Get the women and children on there. Men are staying on the boat to go down with the boat, and we're getting the women and children onto the things. That's life. So that's life, and that's what's going to happen with the occupation order. If there's nowhere else for you to go, then if I were you, I would start looking. Yeah, because no matter what people might say to you, and I will always say how I think, and I don't mind being wrong. I have no issue with being wrong. Yeah, ever at all. I would much rather be wrong, knowing that I've used my own opinion and I've thought for myself and didn't follow everyone else's whatever they're doing, knowing that I've had my own thoughts and feelings for my own reasons, and I was wrong, and that's cool. And then to get something right in family court 100% of the time is never going to happen because there is no consistency and there is no continuity. And but the allegations remain the same: physical, sexual, emotional, psychological, financial. So the allegations remain the same. Yeah. So the types of abuse remain the same. So you will always fall into one of the 5 boxes, into the 5 categories, which means you'll automatically go down a certain journey. And because I've been doing this for 10 years, and because I've studied it, and because I'm doing all this other stuff, and I've worked on tens of thousands of cases, I know what road they're going to be on. So it's difficult because it's a horrible road because you're not seeing your child, and ultimately you can't see your child. This is the non-molestation stuff and the occupation order stuff. It's only very rarely will a judge ever do an order or mention the child in the non-mol or the occupation order for child arrangements. Yeah, because they're totally separate. So as much as you're going to go to court and you might do the non-mol, that's not for child arrangements. There'll be no child arrangement stuff organised there. Very rarely. It's happened twice. Yeah, the judges have turned around and said, when you get back, there's no order, but they've told the other side what needs to happen, and it's happened. Now, where was I? So you need to be prepared for that. So the reason I say undertaken, no findings, no admissions of guilt, because it is no admissions of guilt, it's no findings. So you're saying to the judge, I don't want to go next to her, I don't want to threaten her, I don't want to damage any of her property, I just want to see my daughter, I just want to see my child, boy, girl, whatever. Yeah, and off the back of that, the judge, if the allegations are not too serious, they're always going to be serious in somebody's eyes, but if the judge isn't perceiving them to be as dangerous as what it is, because don't forget, your relationship, that might be that's the worst thing that's happened in the world right now to you. Your relationship's broken down, you're not seeing your children, that is a fucking nightmare, right? It's awful. But there's other relationships that have broken down, and depending on how, I don't know your situation properly, but depending on how the relationship's broken down, there are situations which are volatile and dangerous, yeah? And there's a spectrum, is what I'm saying. So the judge has to make an assessment on the spectrum of what he sees, and as to whether or not the undertaking will be permitted, or if the undertaking will have no findings on it. Yeah, because you can take an not no findings, there's always been no findings, but it would be an undertaking or non-molestation, because if the undertaking doesn't get allowed, because if it's a sexual allegation and a physical allegation, and they're serious and there's evidence to back it up within that first statement that they provided, you're not going to get they're not going to be accepted for an undertaking with no findings. The judge will clearly say that we're going to go through to a hearing, and we're going to hear this out. Off the back of that, that's going to go on for quite a while, and as mine did, because you're going to have lots of hour-long hearings within it, to case management, check evidence is coming in, all that sort of stuff. In that time, you would have submitted your C100, blah, blah, blah. But regardless, you do your C, if you can, and only you know what the allegations will be, right? If you can do an undertaking with no findings, you're going to save yourself loads of time, because the allegations that are going to be made against you, they're not going to disappear. They will just come out, and you're saying we will answer the allegations during the child arrangements application. All you're concerned about is getting to the child arrangements application, because the only reason they're submitting the non-mol is because because they want to delay you get into the child arrangements, and they want to delay you get into that sort of stuff. So the judge, where possible, will try and move things for you as quickly as possible to get to the child arrangements, which is why you need to submit a child arrangements application, C100, before. In fact, if you haven't done it yet, do it now regardless, do it today regardless, before your court hearing, yeah? Because you can say, I've got a reference number, I want to combine them both together. The judge will be like, that's forward thinking, that's good, we'll get them both combined. If you can get an undertaking with no findings, that just puts that away. You've got a 12-month thing sitting on that. It's not important. It's still nil-nil, because they've not listened to you. They've not taken your situation. They've not taken your evidence. They've just said he's made a promise to the court. He's not going to do anything. We trust him because there's no reason not to. It's a volatile situation. If you want to contact her, you can only contact her using either the solicitor or going through the solicitor to go to her, and which can be a pain in the ass because you get bound up with that. Or you can only communicate with her if it's to do with the child. That's the only reasons, yeah. And that way, if that happens, you're like, okay, cool. This is not too serious because the judge is letting me speak. But ultimately, you're saving about a year off of your not seeing your child. If you don't take an undertaking with no findings, you're going to battle your non-mol, and that's going to take at least 12 months, depending on how busy the court is. 12 to 18 months, yeah. While you're battling that, you're not getting your child. You're not seeing your child. But whereas you could be, and then once you've got to the end of 12 to 18 months, and you get to the findings, and whatever's been upheld has been upheld, and been dismissed has been dismissed, you then have to do your child arrangement stuff, and then you have to it's like you're starting back at the beginning again, and then you've got to do, and you get so basically what you're doing is you want to combine them both together. You want to mix them both together if you can. If the undertaking does not get permitted, you want to combine them both together. That's going to save you time as well. That's going because the judge is going to they'll find a way of working it all together. So they'll get all the allegations out there. They'll try and if it's feasible, and if it's feasible, you need to be asking for contact. Now, I say this to anybody, no matter what you're going into, whether you're going into an occupation order application or whether you're going to a non-mol application that's nothing to do with the children. You always go to court and you ask for contact with your child. Always. Yeah. And I had one guy the other week. It was brilliant. He said he kept saying it, not blatantly rudely, but he kept answering the questions and he kept going back to when can I see my child? And the judge was adamant, and we knew what we were doing, but we're highlighting our priority is the child. You're going to get shit thrown at you. They're going to throw shit at you. Your job is to put that shit out. Your job is to be Gaviscon. Yeah. Do not retaliate to the shit that comes your way, because you need to tell your story, your truth. So when you get an allegation put at you, you rewind it and you tell into that story and that situation. So let me go back to the beginning. Right. So what you need to do, own your shit. So that means take responsibility. Be humble. Be happy to learn. Yeah. Offer compromise. Offer sacrifice, and remain child focused. To be really child focused, you've got to take the conflict away. You can't take the conflict away when the other person's arguing with you and wants to continue with the conflict and is high conflict. There's ways around dealing with that. And that's a different kettle of fish. But ultimately, that's what I'm saying. You take an undertaking with no findings. There's no admissions of guilt. If the judge allows that to happen, you're saving yourself 12 to 18 months of not seeing your child, because you're bringing your child arrangements forward 12 to 18 months. Yeah, and that's all by taking an undertaking with no findings. You're going to get people who are angry. You're going to get people who, and it happens. I was angry for 7 years. You're going to get people who want to fight this stuff, and they're going to say it's wrong. If you don't fight it, you need to put this form. You need to do that. You need to do that. They're not wrong. They're not wrong in what they're saying. It's just, in my view, why would you do that when your priority is you're wanting to spend time with your child, and you're missing time with your kid that you're never going to get it back. So why would you bother having a fight and an argument about something then at the beginning if you can save yourself 12 to 18 months and get to see your kid a little bit quicker, 12 to 18 months quicker? If you save that argument from then and just have the argument a little bit later, and that's all you're doing, you're postponing the argument, and that's all you're doing, and you're doing it because you know that the situation that you do, and you will know that she's manipulating the law for her own personal advantage, and that is her agenda to stop you from spending time with a child, and that will be because she'll be trying to hurt you. What she's doing is she's hurting you. She's absolutely hurting you, but she's doing more damage to the child, and the courts and everyone are aware of that. The courts and everyone, and I firmly believe this, I don't care what anyone says, if you behave yourself in court and if you represent yourself properly in court and you do everything that you're supposed to do that's meant to go the way it's meant to go, then the courts will want you to see, the courts want you to have a relationship with your children. The courts want mum and dad to be able to co-parent effectively for the sake of the child. I can see, my daughter's 14 now, and I can see where my conflict at the time with my ex-wife has impacted our daughter. I take responsibility for that. I'm grateful to my ex-wife. She still doesn't speak to me after 10 years. You know, she doesn't see how that would impact my daughter. But regardless of all of this, I've taken my responsibility. I take her responsibility. I've apologized to my daughter for that. And all I show my daughter now is love, because I was angry, and I'm not going to take anything away from my ex-wife. It's up to her. She doesn't want to say sorry. Lila, my daughter, can see what she wants to see. I will not influence my daughter's views on her mum, because she loves her mum and she needs to love her mum. Even during the summer of last year, when they were arguing like anything, and as much as my ex will never do this for me, it's important that my daughter sees me do the right thing, that is the right thing, and not put her in the middle of a disgusting conflict, because one person in that conflict has got mental health issues that they need help with, but are not seeking help. And because, not just because you're a woman, because she's covert, she's managed to do stuff for a number of years. I've been to court with her for multiple times with all sorts of stuff. But I will not put it was an ideal opportunity last year to go in, put an application in and get a lives with order, because that's what my daughter wanted. I didn't do that. I ensured that my daughter fixed the relationship with her mum, and she, where possible, tries to respect her mum, because her mum, she needs her mum and she needs me. And I've been off that same card since day dot. Her mum thinks that she doesn't need me, and her mum makes no secret to anybody. And when my daughter was arguing with her gran last summer, and I was speaking to my ex's mum, she was saying that she won't be happy until I'm dead, until I'm totally not in the life of my daughter. And I know that, because that's how she makes me feel. That doesn't make it right, and it doesn't make it. Back then, it wasn't as well spoken about now as what it is now. But parental alienation is getting more and more spoken about and more recognised if you point it out in the right way. You can't go out and just turn around and say, I'm being parental alienated. You can't go out and say, oh, she's this and she's that. You don't use keywords. You explain, you tell your story with details, with words, not keywords. You tell your situation with the story, not using, oh, she's doing this to me. What does that look like? It looks like this, and it's the wrong thing. So ultimately, that's there. You save yourself. That's why you take an undertaking with no findings, yeah? And because you're saving yourself time, and it's not an admission to guilt at all. You're going to find in these groups, and I hope you're part of, you're speaking to lots of people, you're asking lots of questions. That's really important, because you're going to come across a lot of angry people. Yeah, you're going to naturally part of the change curve. When the big change happens, you go through anger, you go through fear, denial, all those changes. You're going to come across angry people. Some of these people are angry because they're going through the process, like I was. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was angry for that reason. I was angry because how is she allowed to get away with this? It doesn't make sense. That's why I was angry, and what I'd lost and all this other stuff, because I never had anyone like me helping me understand what the situation was. But you're also going to get angry people who are just naturally angry. And these people who are naturally angry, these people who aren't seeing their children, and these are the people, don't forget, I don't know what you do for a living, but if you, for me, I was a retailer before I was doing this permanently. And you know, as a retailer, you give someone a bad experience, any bad experience anyone has, that's going to travel quicker and more vibrantly than what any good news does. So you will only hear me talking about good stuff, yeah, about what happens in court, because there's not enough people talking about the good stuff. Because people, the old school fathers' rights movement campaigns, whatever, they want people to fail. They want people to fail because it gives them headlines. It means that we can continue our fight. What are these people going to do when the fight stops? They're not going to do anything, because the fight will never stop, because the government don't want the fight to stop, because the people at the top don't want the fight to stop, because the people want divide. People want people to be like, Black Lives Matter divided with other people, mums versus dads, blacks versus whites. The people at the top, the people in power want conflict. It means that they have got something. People are keeping their eyes on something else rather than keeping their eyes on what they're doing. So these people that are angry all the time, and you get angry women. My ex-wife's definitely one of them. You get angry men. Yeah, ultimately, these people are the ones that are probably, like, for example, the people who are in the groups that are saying, oh, you do this and do that, and they're putting other people's ideas, and if they're being rude to people, if they're slagging people off, if they're trolling people because they don't have an agreement in what they're saying, or they don't agree with what someone else's opinion is, if they have to resort to being aggressive or derogative or slagging someone else off because of it, and they can't have it, and there's nothing wrong with having a debate, and there's nothing wrong with being told that you're wrong or something like that, and absolutely no one's right 100% of the time. But if you've got people like that and they're not seeing their kids, you've got to think to yourself, well, there's a reason why they're not seeing their kids. They might say to you they're absolutely innocent, blah blah blah, but if they're behaving that way to you or to someone else you see, the likelihood is they're going into court with that same approach, and the likelihood is they've been in a relationship with someone with that approach, and that's why they're not seeing their kids. Yeah, and that's why, because I tell you, if I for myself personally, if I had behaved the way that I get my clients to behave when we go into court, we save time because of it. Yeah, because you give them the respect of the judge, the court, the process, and the process is shit, and the judges know the process is shit. Well, the majority of them do. Yeah, and they know it's a killer with this time that you're not seeing your child. They know it. Yeah, and as much as they know it, they can't. I've sat in so many hearings where the judges, you can see the judge doesn't believe what's being said about them. But the process, as soon as an allegation gets said, it has to be heard. Yeah, so you can withdraw the application, you can withdraw what you said, but the likelihood of the woman or whoever makes it, whoever's saying this stuff, withdrawing something is very slim. Yeah, it happens very rarely. I think that's about it, really. So if I were you, if it's an occupation order, you need to accept that as well. Again, we've battled so many occupation orders, and I've never won an occupation order. Even when we thought we were going to win an occupation order, we've never won it. And that's not because we're doing anything wrong, because the child is living with the mum, and when the mum has got nowhere to live. That's just the cases that I've been dealing with. Or they've made excuses that they can't stay with their mums and dads and whatever, and we have to go and find someone somewhere else. And because they are the main carer of the child, that is what will happen. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just saying that's my personal experiences. And based on case law that you look at, if you study that, then you'll see the same thing there as well. So in terms of wasting your time to fight the battle that you're going to lose, why bother fighting it in the first place? And another thing, right, it gives you more time. If you take an undertaking with no findings on the non-mol, it gives you more time to get your head around shit. It gives you more time to figure shit out and and to understand exactly what's happening. Yeah, and if you and the only reason, right, what's going to happen if your non-mol that gets undertaken, you're then going to go to child arrangement stuff. CAFCAS will then get involved. CAFCAS will do a pre-court interview. Your decisions are made not in court. Your decisions are made outside of court. Yeah, and this is another reason to put in like me. So decisions are made with CAFCAS and decisions are made with social workers. Yeah, whoever's doing your safeguarding check, whoever's going to spend the 30 minutes, 45 minutes doing the phone call with you, they're going to write a report. And I've got all the questions, and I know there's ways of dealing with this stuff. You can take whatever advice you like. I don't care whether you take mine. I don't care whether you take someone else's. Ultimately, you do what's right for you, and that's that. I can't give too much away what I do because I'm fed up with being trolled because of it. So I just give it to people who pay me separately. But ultimately, you need to just do what you need to do. And I would, if I were you, I would undertake with no findings, move out the house, because it's a battle that you're not going to win. It shows that you're making a sacrifice and compromise to the judge, and it shows that you're not being aggressive about it. You're doing what's right for your child, because all they're going to do is what's right for the child, and they're going to say that the house you need to be lived in because the child needs somewhere to live. I got rid of my house. I would put £100,000, my life savings, back when money was valuable, and I was working and expenses and everything was really good, and I had just under £100,000 to put into when I got married and whatnot before I got married. And then put it all into the wedding, put it all into the house. And when we were getting divorced and whatnot soon afterwards, and I lost everything. I had £40,000 out of that back, and the house is worth 450, whatever it is. I was never very good with numbers and shit, but yeah. So she got a good one, and ultimately, I battled all of it, thinking I was going to win it, and I didn't. And then 10 years later, when I do 10 years of research and 10 years of doing cases with people, and telling people, yeah, we can win this, and then realizing you can't, because ultimately it's what's right for the child, and you have to be so child focused. And because I am now so child focused, my opinion has changed on how to deal with things based on what I hear the judges say, and the judges say nearly the same thing all up and down this land. Yeah, and I've got every single, I've got so much I know exactly what's going to happen at each court hearing before it's even happened. Yeah, because it's easy to read. But people can't read it because apparently it's not easy to read. Because, oh, mind you, saying that, I can't swim. I can't swim. Does it make me silly? No, it doesn't. It means I can't swim. People can't see what I see, and people can't do what I do based on the fact that they're too naive to do it. People who I teach can do what I do, and they understand it because I teach them. But ultimately, if you, I show them where to look. I help them understand why and how CAFCASs or social workers are going to be the ones making the decisions, because it's meant to be the judge. It's meant to take place in court. Doesn't make sense. But the judge is only seeing you for half an hour each time, and they're not going to be able to make an assessment of you and who you are until you are able to without getting the feedback from you. Yeah, so they get feedback from they'll get feedback from the professionals of the reports, and that's what the judges go from. And so, for example, the newest stats, I think it's about 82% of, in the last, I think last time it was reported, most recent stats, 82% of the court's decisions, if the CAFCAS report, safeguarding report goes in, 82% of the time, the courts will listen and do exactly what's on that CAFCAS report. Yeah, so if it says no contact, then you've got to work hard to try and get contact. Yeah, so that's really important to understand. Don't get me wrong, there's times where, and I've done it quite a few times, where you've got something on the CAFCAS report, you've got evidence, you can turn it over with hard evidence, what's on there is wrong, and then you show that it's wrong and you highlight how you've been mistreated, not to the social workers, not to CAFCAS people, but you do it to the judge. Yeah, and that's what's even more difficult, because the amount of people that complain to the professionals about the professionals and it achieves nothing. Yeah, but then you have to take the shit that you're putting up with, and it's the most painful thing in the world, and you have to take it and tolerate it and fucking suck it up, because if you challenge it and fight it back to the wrong person, they're going to make your life even more difficult. So you save it all and you give it to the judge, and the judge will see what it is. And that's what I've had to do every single time of my 7 cases that gone to court with my ex-wife. She's either stopped contact, done whatever she's done, and I got fed up with even talking to CAFCAS. I got fed up with talking to social workers because they weren't listening to me. They were trying to make out, because of my own bad behaviour at the beginning. It's about everything in life. It's about the relationships you build with people. The first 30 seconds of the interaction is going to be really important. Really important. You can always backtrack that and change it, because I think a lot of people perceive me to be a certain way, but then when they start speaking to me or understanding me or spend some time with me, they realize that I'm not the way that they've been perceiving me, because everybody has a mask, and you have to be able to adapt that mask when you're dealing with a professional, because naturally you're going to be angry, you're going to be homeless, or whatever the situation might be, you're going to be feeling deceived, you're going to be feeling like you can't trust anybody. So your natural body language and behavior and demeanor is going to be someone who's angry, but then they're going to mark you down for being angry. And that's how fucked their system is. And that's how fucked it is. And that's why you need someone who is going to guide you through it all. You definitely don't need a solicitor. Definitely do not need a solicitor. You will have the same results. The amount of people that I've seen and done, and even, you're going to get the same result without a solicitor as what you do with a solicitor. Because even if you, and even that, and I totally believe that, even if you've done something wrong, and when I say wrong, if you physically beaten the crap out of your missus, or she's beaten the crap out of you, that you're not going to be in family court, you're going to be in criminal court. Yeah, and if there's any sexual stuff that's going on, or then that's gonna that there you're gonna be fucked as well. So there's gonna be things that you've got to accept that is not going to happen. You're not going to see, if there's any sexual stuff and that's confirmed, you're not seeing your kids. Yeah, that's full stop. Yeah, and if it's physical and you've done some nasty stuff, if you're willing to take on board what you've done and take responsibility for it, do some training courses. And this is another thing, do as many training courses as you can, do as many as you can. Even if you think they're teaching you to suck eggs, do it, get certificates, go to court with it. The power of that is unbelievable. Yeah, because it shows, and it saves the courts from actually ordering you to do one of their courses. But then no one wants to think about that, do they? Because they want to much rather argue and fight and say that everyone else is wrong. But that's just how it is. So look, if you need any help, Darren, I'm happy to help anyone I'm happy to give, and I'm honoured, absolutely honoured for anyone who asks me for advice or wants to take on board anything I have to say. It's an absolute honour and privilege to work for all of my clients and all the people I work for, even the ones where, like today, where things have gone a bit tits up in terms of me getting trained, weather, and all that sort of shit. It's been a bit of a nightmare. But look, everything is just fucking how it needs to be, and that's life. And unfortunately, you're on this journey, and anyone who's on this journey, it's going to go 2 ways, one of 2 ways. You're either going to kill yourself, which I don't want to happen. I've been there. I've been suicidal. I've tried drinking myself into a stupor, take a drug overdoses, all that sort of stuff. Now, 10 years later, I'm grateful that I've gone through all the stuff that I've gone through, because when lockdown first happened, I was made redundant. I was doing this before then. I was helping people for free in my spare time, but the amount that I learned in those 7 years or whatever doing that, or 7 years, about 7 years doing that, because I've been doing this. Yeah, so about 7 years I've been helping people for free. I wouldn't have had the knowledge or experience and everything that I had, even from my own personal stuff as well, that I've got now. That's so valuable. That can help people. That supports people. Because I'm now studying. I'm doing my second year of doing my BA honours in law online. I would never be studying law in my life. Why would I be doing that? But I'm doing it, so it's making me a better person. You're going to spend some time. You need to reflect on your relationship. You need to own where you've gone wrong. You knew your relationship with, I don't know, most people don't. I mean, I need to understand your situation, but for me, I knew my ex-wife was up to something before I found out that she was up to something. Yeah, the women have left us generally 6 to 12 months before they've left us. They've left us emotionally before they've left us physically, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So you will have known. We all know, whether we want to admit it to it or not. We all know that moment when our relationship was over, that argument that was had, that you could never make back from. Yeah, what might have been. Yeah, you know when your relationship was up. And I'll tell you this now: it takes two people to get into a relationship. It takes two people to make a baby. It takes two people to end a relationship. And them two people are the same two people. You will never find. It's very rare to find a relationship that ends that you've got people being amicable and civil with each other. I've seen it. I've seen it happen. It does happen, but it's very rare. More normally, the norm is that one person's blaming the other and the other's blaming the other. I spent years blaming my ex-wife for everything, but it was just as much my doing of the relationship ending as what it was hers, because the communication broke down. She might still blame me, whatever, but and fine, and it was to a certain extent my fault. And it's not the end of the world. Yeah, ultimately I can own it, and what I'm grateful for is now being able to own anything that I do wrong. I do care. I don't intentionally go out and do things wrong, but if something goes wrong, you're taking the argument away. You're taking the argument away from the other person by saying, "Yeah, I messed up," and what they want you to do in these situations, the other side, is they want you to argue because it's going to go on longer. And the more allegations you make up or put against to get the other side, it's going to take longer for the judge to decipher them down. So you literally, it's such a complex thing, because what you want to do and the normal thing you do, the normal thing that you would normally do is not the normal thing to do, is what I'd say. I mean, I had someone the other week told off for saying, "Yeah, it's the weekend, no school." Well, that was a problem. Why is that a problem? Well, because you're not celebrating, you're not saying positive things about the school. It's the weekend, but you got told off for it. You got criticised and made to feel awful for it. But anyway, anyone who needs advice and support, let me know. Like I say, it's an honour to help anybody, and I'm always touched when anyone asks for my advice and whatnot. But because I only do this, and I only do the stuff that I do for my own personal self, because I'm selfish, because it makes me feel better, because that's why I started it when I was going through what you're going through. I'd go out and feed homeless people and that, because you're feeling that shit in yourself. It's important that you do something positive. It's important that you go out and help people. It's important that you give love, because at this time, no one wants to give love, because your natural thing is not to give love. Because why would you? Because you're angry. No one's being nice to you. Why have I got to be nice to people that are being shit to me? But if you can find it somewhere in your soul, in your heart, to give love, that's going to make you feel better. And then that will naturally continue growing and growing and growing. It'll snowball. It will never be the same as your child's love, because you're not getting your child's love, but it's a little bit of a for me, it's a little bit of a replacement. But yeah, that's that. So I hope that makes sense. You're going to get lots of feedback from lots of different people. Be aware of all these people. They've all got their own stories and situations, and 9 times out of 10, if they're not seeing their children, it's because of something they did ultimately, and they won't. And there's a reason, and there's certain behaviours that you will look into and you'll start learning about, that people who don't and can't see things from anyone else's perspective other than their own, and people who go out and love drama and love conflict, these people, are men and women. Yeah, and when you see people trolling, or you see people being negative to people, they are, in the father's rights world, And then normally, and they're protecting, they're apparently protecting their clients and their people who are going through that shit and then gone through the trauma of their being abused emotionally and psychologically and lies about them and that, meant to be protecting these people. But you're getting these people are still going out and doing the same thing that they're protecting people from to other people, which makes them just as bad as your ex-missus who was doing it all. It's a massive circle. It's a massive, massive circle. You go down the rabbit hole with it, but there you go. Look, peace and love. If you need anything, I'm abound, always work late. And then, yeah, that's that. So look, cool. It's peace and love, chill, and good luck with everything, yeah?